You know, sometimes you slip on a pair of shoes and your feet just feel like, right,
Yeah.
totally supported, no aches, no pains, just pure comfort.
Uh-huh.
Well, I used to think that was magic,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe dumb luck, but it turns out there's a hidden hero working behind the scenes.
Oh,
To make that happen, the shoe shank.
okay.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into this often overlooked part of footwear.
Right.
And I've got a feeling it's going to change the way you think about shoes forever. You've sent over some really interesting articles and notes, and luckily, expert speaker is here to help us unpack it all. So, to kick things off, let's break down the basics. What exactly is a shoe shank, and where is it hiding in my shoe?
Okay, so it's literally a hidden support structure nestled between the insole.
The insole.
Yeah, that's the part your foot rests on.
Okay.
And the outsole, the part that touches the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You usually won't see it, but you can often feel it right under your arch. Think of it like the internal scaffolding of the shoe, keeping it from collapsing and bending in all the wrong ways.
Okay, so it's like a miniature backbone for my shoe.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
makes sense. But the article mentioned that they're made from all sorts of things: steel, fiberglass, even composites.
Yeah,
Why so many options? Is one material better than the others?
that's where it gets really interesting. Each material has its own strengths and weaknesses. And shoemakers choose them very carefully based on the shoe's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like take steel, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly strong, resistant to bending.
Yeah.
Which is why you'll find it in work boots, designed to handle heavy loads in tough environments. It's like the superhero of shank materials,
Yeah.
built to last and take a beating.
So if I'm planning on doing some heavy lifting, I should make sure my boots have a steel shank.
Absolutely.
Got it. But what about those lighter, more flexible shoes? What are their shanks made of?
So for those, athletic shoes or everyday footwear where flexibility is key, fiberglass is a popular choice. It's lightweight, yet surprisingly supportive, allowing your foot to move naturally while still providing that crucial stability. It's kind of like the gymnast of shank materials.
Mm-hmm.
Strong and supportive, but also agile and able to bend.
Okay, so steel for strength, fiberglass for flexibility. That makes sense. What about those composite shanks that the article mentioned?
Right.
What's the deal with those?
Think of composite shanks as the multitaskers of the shank world. They combine different materials to achieve very specific performance goals. For instance, you might have a composite shank that blends the strength of steel with the lightweight flexibility of fiberglass.
Yeah.
It all comes down to fine-tuning the shank for the shoe's intended use and the wearer's needs.
This is making me realize there's a whole lot more to shoe design than I ever imagined. And speaking of needs, the article also touched on how the shank impacts foot health. I have to admit, I've always been a bit skeptical of those claims. Can a tiny piece of material hidden inside my shoe really make that much of a difference?
It absolutely can, and here's why. A well-designed shank is crucial for distributing your weight evenly across your foot.
Mm-hmm.
That takes pressure off your arches, which, believe me, your feet will thank you for, especially if you're prone to aches and pains or have conditions like overpronation.
So it's not just about comfort, it's about preventing potential problems down the line.
Right.
That makes sense. But how does the shank actually contribute to better foot health in a practical sense?
Think about it this way. Your feet are constantly moving, bending, and twisting as you walk, run, and jump. A good shank acts like a stabilizer,
Okay.
preventing excessive movement that can lead to strains, sprains, and even more serious injuries. It's like having built-in shock absorbers for your feet.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light. A strong, supportive shank equals happier, healthier feet. But there's one thing I'm still struggling with. How can I tell if a shoe has a good shank? It's not like they put a window in the sole so you can inspect it before you buy.
You're right, it's not always visible.
Huh.
But here's the good news. You can usually feel a good shank when you try on a shoe. Pay attention to the arch area.
Oh, yeah?
Does it feel firm and supportive, like it's gently cradling your arch?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it feel flimsy and collapsible?
Okay.
That's your first clue.
Okay, so a firm, supportive arch is a good sign. What else should I be looking for when I'm on the hunt for a good shank?
Think about what you'll be using the shoes for.
Okay.
A hiking boot,
Yeah.
designed to handle rugged terrain,
Yeah.
is going to need a much sturdier shank than a pair of ballet flats.
Right.
The demands on the shoe dictate the type of support it needs,
Yeah.
and that all comes back to the shank.
Right. Different shoes, different needs. Makes sense. And speaking of different needs, the source mentioned something about bilateral movement and how it's a bad thing. I'm not familiar with that term. Can you break it down for me.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Imagine you're wearing a shoe and your foot slides side to side within the shoe.
Oh, okay.
That's bilateral movement, and it's a sign of instability. It's often caused by a weak or poorly designed shank that's not doing its job of keeping your foot properly supported and centered. Over time, that excessive movement can lead to discomfort, instability, and even injuries.
So a good shank should help prevent that side-to-side wobble, right? Like keep my foot locked in place.
Exactly. A well-designed shank will keep your foot stable within the shoe, reducing the risk of unwanted movement and all the problems that come with it. It's all about creating a solid foundation for your foot to move on.
This is so fascinating. I'm starting to see my shoes in a whole new light. It's like this tiny hidden component is the key to comfort, stability, and even preventing injuries. But we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, like how shanks are used in different types of shoes and for people with specific foot conditions. We'll dive into all of that after a quick break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. I'm excited to dig deeper into how shanks are specifically designed for different types of shoes and foot needs. It's really quite remarkable how adaptable this little piece of footwear engineering can be.
Me too. It's like we've unlocked a secret level of shoe knowledge. And I'm eager to see how it all plays out in the real world. For instance, the source mentioned orthopedic shoes and shoes for swollen feet.
Right.
I'm guessing the shank plays a particularly important role in those cases, right?
You're spot on. Let's start with orthopedic shoe. These are shoes designed to address specific foot problems, and the shank is absolutely essential for providing the targeted support and stability those conditions require.
So are we talking about a whole different level of shank compared to, say, your average sneaker?
Absolutely. Think about someone with flat feet, high arches, or plantar fasciitis.
Mm-hmm.
Those conditions need extra support and correction,
Right.
and that's where a carefully designed shank comes in. It's like having a customized support system built right into the shoe, helping to align the foot properly and alleviate pain.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the shank is working overtime in those shoes.
Yeah.
What about shoes designed for swollen feet? How does the shank factor into that equation?
So when your feet are swollen, they need extra space, but also the right kind of support. And believe it or not, the shank can help with both. Shoes for swollen feet often have a wider fit and a more flexible shank.
Okay.
That can accommodate the increased volume while still providing crucial stability.
So it's not just about cramming your foot into a bigger shoe. It's about providing the right support within that wider space. The shank is the key to making it all work.
Exactly. The beauty of the shank is that it can be fine-tuned to address all sorts of needs. The material, the shape, the flexibility can all be adjusted to create the perfect support system for different foot conditions and situations.
It's like the shank is the foundation upon which a good supportive shoe is built. And speaking of foundations, the source also mentioned wide fit shoes.
Right.
I know a lot of people who struggle to find shoes that fit their wider feet comfortably. Can the shank help with that too?
You bet. A well-designed shank can actually help create a better contour for the foot, even in a wider shoe. It's not just about making the shoe wider, it's about ensuring that the foot is properly supported within that wider space.
So the shank is working to distribute weight more evenly across a wider foot, reducing pressure points and enhancing comfort. It's like it's creating a custom fit experience even in a ready-made shoe.
That's a great way to put it. It all comes back to the shank's ability to adapt and provide the right support for a wide range of needs.
This is making me realize that shoe shopping is a lot more technical than I ever realized. I'm starting to see a pattern here. No matter what the foot shape or condition, the shank plays a vital role in providing the right support and fit. It's like the unsung hero of footwear, working behind the scenes to keep our feet happy and healthy.
I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
And speaking of keeping feet happy, we can't forget about athletic shoes. They need to withstand a lot of impact and movement. So I'm guessing the shank has a particularly important job to do there, right?
You read my mind. I was just thinking about that. After all, those shoes are designed for performance, so the shank must be a key part of the equation. What kind of shanks are we talking about in athletic footwear?
Athletic shoes often have specialized shanks designed to enhance performance and support specific movements. For example, a running shoe might have a more flexible shank,
Yeah.
to allow for a natural range of motion while still providing stability. It's like a springboard, helping to propel you forward with each step.
That's fascinating. I can see how that flexibility would be important for runners. But what about basketball shoes? With all their jumping and quick movements, I bet they need a different kind of shank altogether.
Exactly. Basketball shoes often have a much more rigid shank
Okay.
to provide that rock-solid stability and support needed for those explosive lateral movements and jumps. It's all about keeping the foot secure and preventing those sudden twists and turns that can lead to injuries.
Wow, this is making me look at my sneakers in a whole new light. I never realized there was so much science and engineering involved in creating a shoe that can handle those kinds of demands. It's like the shank is a secret weapon for athletes, helping them perform at their best while protecting their feet.
You got it. It's a subtle but powerful component that can make a real difference in both performance and injury prevention.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I'm feeling a lot more knowledgeable about what's going on beneath my feet, and I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to the shank when I shop for shoes from now on.
That's great to hear. It's one of those things we often take for granted, but it plays such a crucial role in our comfort, stability, and even our performance.
Uh-huh.
But before we wrap things up, I want to touch on one more important aspect of the shank, its potential impact on something called energy return. You ever heard of that?
Energy return. That sounds intriguing. I'm not familiar with the term, but I'm guessing it has something to do with how efficiently we move, right?
Yeah.
Fill me in.
You're on the right track. Essentially, energy return refers to the amount of energy that's returned to you as you walk or run.
Mm-hmm.
A well-designed shank can actually improve energy return, making your movements feel more efficient and less tiring.
Wait, so it's not just about supporting my foot, it's also about helping me move more efficiently.
Right.
That's incredible. How does the shank achieve that?
Imagine a spring pushing back against you as you step.
Mm-hmm.
A good shank can actually mimic that effect,
Okay.
providing a subtle boost that helps propel you forward with each stride.
That's amazing. It's like the shank is giving me a little extra pep in my step. No wonder athletes are so particular about their footwear. The right shank can make a real difference in their performance. But speaking of performance, we've been focusing on all the positive aspects of the shank. What what happens when a shank is poorly designed or made from inferior materials? Does it just not work as well, or could it actually cause problems?
That's an excellent question. And unfortunately, a poorly designed shank can do more harm than good. When a shank isn't up to par, it can compromise the overall support and stability of the shoe, leading to discomfort, foot fatigue, and even pain.
Ouch. So a bad shank can actually contribute to the problems it's supposed to be preventing.
Right.
That's not good. Are there any other downsides to a poorly designed shank?
Unfortunately, yes. A bad shank can also contribute to the development or worsening of existing foot conditions. For example, if the shank doesn't provide adequate arch support, it can put extra strain on the plantar fascia, potentially leading to plantar fasciitis, which is a very painful condition.
So a bad shank can actually exacerbate existing problems. That's a good reminder that we need to be paying attention to the quality of the shank when we're buying shoes. It's not just about the brand name or the style, it's about the integrity of that hidden support system.
Exactly. Investing in shoes with well-made shanks is an investment in your foot health and overall well-being.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've learned so much about the importance of shoe shanks, their role in foot health, and how they can even impact athletic performance. I'm feeling so much more informed, and I'm definitely going to be approaching shoe shopping with a newfound appreciation for this often overlooked component.
I agree. It's amazing how much we discovered about this hidden hero of footwear. And speaking of discoveries, we're not quite done yet. There's still more to explore, like the evolution of shank designs and materials over time, and some fascinating insights into the future of footwear technology. We'll dive into all of that after a quick break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the secret life of shoe shanks. It's amazing how something so small can have such a big impact on our comfort and well-being.
I know, right? It's like we've been walking around with these hidden support systems all along and never even realized it.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to make sure our listeners walk away with some key takeaways. What are the most important things you want them to remember about shoe shanks?
Well, first and foremost, I want everyone to understand that the shank isn't just some random piece of material. It's a carefully engineered component that plays a vital role in the overall structure and function of a shoe.
Right. It's not just about style or brand names. It's about finding a shoe that provides the right support for your individual needs.
Exactly. And those needs can vary widely, depending on your foot type, activity level, and any foot conditions you might have.
So next time you're shoe shopping, take a moment to consider the shank. Don't be afraid to feel the arch area for firmness and support, and think about the activities you'll be doing in those shoes.
And don't hesitate to ask questions. A knowledgeable salesperson should be able to guide you towards shoes with the right shank for your needs.
That's such a great point. We've learned so much today about the different types of shanks, the materials they're made from, and how they can be tailored to specific needs.
It's really quite remarkable how versatile the shank is. It can be adapted for everything from heavy-duty work boots to delicate ballet flats.
It's like the shank is the unsung hero of footwear, working behind the scenes to keep our feet happy and healthy.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of shoe shanks, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, I'm all ears.
We've talked a lot about how the shank supports our feet and influences our comfort and performance. But what about the future? With advancements in material science and footwear technology, what might the shank of tomorrow look like?
Ooh, that's a great question. Could we see shanks that are even more lightweight and responsive? Or perhaps shanks that are customized to our individual foot shape using 3D printing?
Those are definitely possibilities. And who knows, maybe we'll even see shanks that can adjust their level of support on the fly, adapting to different activities and terrains.
Now, that would be amazing. Imagine a shoe that could seamlessly transition from a supportive walking shoe to a flexible running shoe, all thanks to a super smart shank.
The possibilities are really quite exciting.
Yeah.
So as you lace up your shoes today, remember that there's more to them than meets the eye. That little piece of hidden technology known as the shank is playing a vital role in your every step.
This has been such an enlightening deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the science and engineering that goes into creating a good shoe.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this fascinating exploration into the secret life of shoe shanks.
Until next time, happy shoe shopping and happy feet.